Please give an enchanted icon welcome to Keith Martin Smith.
All right. It's great to be here. Great to be up on the stage. It's a little intimidating with so many luminous minds here and so many interesting talks. Before I get started, a few caveats. One, I am Irish. Two, I have a microphone. So we'll see if I can stick in the time limits or not. Also, this PowerPoint was built yesterday with Alexander Love's help. So if anything goes wrong, please blame Alexander. Okay, so I'm talking about same words, different worlds, loving across the developmental divide. And so in addition to doing the book work that I do, I also work as a coach and work with couples and individuals. And this is really about the work that I do with couples. And smart, sincere couples, right? They can love each other, but they can still feel like they're arguing in different languages. It's the same words, but it's different worlds. And the people that come to me tend to be stuck a little bit. They're working with therapists or they're working with coaches usually, and they're getting a lot of horizontal help, a lot of tools and things to help their relationship, their communication, their attachment disorders, all these things, but something is still off. And so what I look for is a developmental mismatch. And this talk is going to be just about that and how we as integralists can be a little bit better about recognizing when the conflict and miscommunication is developmental as opposed to horizontal. Okay, so John Searle, he's one of my favorite philosophers. He actually passed away recently. And he was a real cantankerous guy, real cantankerous. And he really, his take was that every time he came to a lecture, to one of his colleagues, academia, a lot of ideas, a lot of talk, and he would always ask one question, just a single question. And so his hand would go up, and his question was always this. So, now this is a question as integralists, we're getting better at asking and answering ourselves. For a long time, integral was really just this kind of heady theory. It didn't really do much in them. And so this talk is actually a little bit heady, somewhat ironically, but I've noticed this weekend that integral is really moving from the head to the heart. And it's been really obvious in the presentations and the conversations in the community, and you can really feel it in the room. And so that's a pretty exciting evolution. Okay, so my next slide, so I stole this from Adam Leonard. So I was inspired by his use of Contact, the movie Contact, and I thought, well, why not steal it? So I did. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I've seen it maybe 20 times, and as John explained, as Adam explained, Ellie, Jodie Foster, right? She's an American scientist. They build this machine from instructions that are sent down from space, and she's teleported to this sort of ethereal realm, the beach of her childhood. And while she's there, her father, who died when she was just a little girl, kind of walks up, and he translates from one species to another what it is that they're doing, what this contact means. So his transmission is very, very attuned to what she needs to hear, exactly. And he says a couple of really, really interesting things. He says, you're an interesting species, an interesting mix. You're capable of such beautiful dreams and such horrible nightmares. You feel so lost, so cut off, so alone, only you're not. See, in all our searchings, the only thing we found that makes the emptiness bearable is each other. Beautiful. So this talk is a little bit how we can do that, how we can achieve that. So, so our worldviews are what we are. They define basically the totality of our reality in a lot of ways. All humans seek love, connection, happiness, right? We're all pure in our essence. There have been a couple talks on this today. So what happens when two worldviews collide? Well, we've all seen this. We've all experienced it. Feel so lost, so cut off, so alone. Only we're not. So we connect through language. And this is a big part of the work that I've been doing with Terri and learning from Terri as the master practitioner and genius that she is. A word. What does authenticity mean to you out there? And how would you self-define it? Think about it, a few phrases. What about ownership or apology? What's a good ownership? What's a good apology? What's good communication? How do you express frustration skillfully? These things, some of these things, are at the core of relationship. They're at the core of conflict. Okay. But they're not platonic ideals. They're a window into the worldview that is generated. This is the power of integral. Here are 4 words, and look at what happens here. Hey, if we look at Terri's model, 3.0 Umber, which is 3.0 Umber is like early orange, early rational. So I'll just call it Umber or 3.0. But authenticity, right? Say what's true. Don't bullshit me. Well, what about for Orange Achiever? It's a little different. There's a little bit of an evolution in the word internally. Walk your talk. Don't be a hypocrite. Green, it's let me reveal my interior truth. That's what being authentic means. And in Teal, we really want to name the frames and the contradictions. That's a big part of it. Let me tell you what it is I'm seeing. And let me tell you where I feel a contradiction in what you're doing and what I'm experiencing. Okay. So here's the bad news. Under stress, we all start to slide downward. And so Kim Barta, who will be speaking tomorrow, I definitely recommend you all listen to his talk, really is a genius at speaking to this bit. When he works with clients, people don't show up at their highest level, right? Never. When you're showing up in conflict, you're always showing up at a lower developmental level. And this is why. When we're under stress, stress narrows attention, we grab certainty, we lose nuance, we protect belonging, right? And we default to our oldest successful strategies. And if we're traumatized, that last point is usually a problem. Okay. Oh, and then of course, the most important point, which is there. When we're under stress, we all get dumber and we all get more confident about it. Okay, so what words mean across the divide? So don't really take all of this in. This isn't meant to be like a lecture thing. I just want to give you an impression of how complex the territory actually is, because it really matters when we're trying to apply this work in the field with real human beings, with real hearts, with real problems. Okay, so if we were to synthesize Umber and Orange, this is kind of a generality of how they might look at these 4 words, right? Just sort of helps me orient towards my clients. If we were looking at Green and Teal, this would sort of help me orient towards my clients. One of the things that Terri's model shows is that Umber and Orange are a third-person perspective. There's me, there's you, and then there's this third thing that we call objective reality. And Green and Teal are both a fourth-person perspective. And what that means is they can begin to see that that so-called objectivity lives inside of context. Context, right? Context is key for Green. And at Teal, we begin to see a little bit more. So, okay. So Umber and Orange in relationship. So this just gives you a little bit of an idea about how these are sort of the same and different, but what these developmental levels tend to be looking for. So one way to think of it is that 3.0 or Umber, it's like a camera, right? It captures what's real out there. 3.5, Orange, it's more like the project manager. It wants a plan, it wants a deal. Wants something that the nervous system can trust. Okay. Green, Teal in relationship. So it's a little different here, right? So for Green is the microphone. Green picks up what wasn't said. And Teal is the system's dashboard. It sees all the shining lights, all the loops that are going on. And so, important line here is repair, restore safety recognition, and design conditions that build trust. And we'll see, I'm going to go into an example from some clients of mine to bring this to life a little bit. Okay, so here's the collision. Okay, when a camera argues with a microphone, the camera says, "Why are you so sensitive?" And the microphone says, "Why are you so dead inside?" But here's the thing, everybody. these developmental arguments, these fights, both people are really sincere. They're being completely sincere. And so that means the argument feels moral. You should be able to see this. And so it's very personal, right? Especially when they're given tools that aren't working. Okay. So I chose, because of the client, the example that I'm going to use an orange and a green teal kind of a thing here. This is what orange hears when they're listening to green. You're being emotional and irrational. You're moving the goalpost. You won't just say what you want. And you're being unfair and I can't win. And green hears you're minimizing me. You're being cold and disconnected. You're turning love into a contract. And you care more about being right than you do about being here. Orange might say something like this. If we don't have a clear agreement, I can't relax and nothing is safe. And green teal is going to say something like, well, if I don't feel safe, it doesn't matter what you do. Okay. So, brief case study here. So this is some clients that came to me. The situation was that Paul and Anne, not their real names, they were having a lot of conflict around sex and around sleeping in the same bed. And they were really at an impasse. So Paul's saying this, kind of a very Umber Orange thing to say. He's trying, he's showing up, he's changing. Feels like none of it counts. I'm giving 100%, and nothing has changed. And Anne is saying, I hear you're trying, but my body still doesn't feel safe. My nervous system is braced. I'm not withholding to punish you. I just need a little bit more. So this is a sign of Umber Orange. Whenever you're citing percentages, something Terri taught me. All right? Hey, I'm giving 100% over here. I'm giving 110%. I'm doing something that's impossible. Okay, green is, how can you not see my need for safety? What's wrong with you? It's not a sex problem. It's a translation problem. Okay, here's the loop. Okay, so Paul's internal state is, we're not okay. His nervous system grabs for certainty. He reaches for proof, terms, frequency. He's looking for, I did X, it should lead to Y. If I put 40% effort in, I should have 40% more sex. Anne's internal state, that's actually not an exaggeration. It was a very challenging client, Paul, especially for Anne. But Anne's internal state was, I'm not safe, and so her nervous system is bracing. She's reaching for meaning and repair. She wants context. She wants to talk about her trauma, and she wants an explanation. So the misreads lock it in. Paul hears what he said. He hears moving goalposts, unfair. Anne hears pressure, danger, objectification. What does it lead to? Paul escalates his urgency. He pushes on her harder. She pulls back. She gets resentful. The loop goes around again and again and again. They go to a therapist. They get a bunch of tools. Boom. Loop continues. Because this is a developmental problem. Okay. The work through. Okay. So this is what Paul is thinking. This is what Anne's thinking. Okay. So the whole move here is we have to stop repairing the wrong injury. So orange hears solve and improve it. Green hears meet me and make it safe. If Paul leads with terms before contract, Anne's body is going to tighten and he's going to lose the room. If Anne leads with nuance before structure, Paul hears moving goalposts, she's going to lose the room. So this is what we do. We help them with scripts, right? People like us, working as coaches, working as therapists, we give them a bridge. Hey, Anne, I hear safety matters to you. Can we make it a simple 30-day plan that we can both trust and then review? Anne says, I hear you're trying. Before we negotiate terms, I need one clean moment of repair so my body can soften. And contact first, then agree. Okay. Now an abrupt and awkward shift. Okay. So we're going to switch to AI, because I want to talk a little bit about AI. So, because it's relevant here, very relevant here. And by the way, you can notice all the things that Alexander screwed up on my map. Okay, so AI is a great tool, everybody. I use it all the time with my clients. I load in the transcript, right? It helps me with my developmental understanding of myself and my clients. It helps me see when this is actually going on, as opposed to a translative issue. Very powerful, okay? So this is where it can help, this is where it can hurt. Start with the bad, I'm Irish. Okay, the risk. So the risk is Terry's research and Tom's research. They probably talked about this, or will talk about it, right? It's like AI defaults to 3.5 cognition at its very best. The biggest models orient towards a 3.5 orange worldview. Well, what's the problem with that? Okay, that's either or, promoting certainty. It's basically Paul. It's a brilliant Paul with a 5 million IQ, right? Totally disembodied. It can collapse interior reality into behavior-only fixes. It's sycophantic, as we all know, right? Okay, what about the best use? Well, the best use is you got to generate multiple translations of the same conflict. So you have it do different things, a developmental analysis, an Enneagram analysis, a Myers-Briggs analysis, trauma, attachment. You can run all these things and you can get your AI to be a lot more robust. You force it to steelman each position to make sure it's not being sycophantic to you. You spot repair mismatch, which is what we just did, a big thing. And then you help scripts and containers, which can help work with each developmental level. Okay, so the thing is that it needs really detailed instruction. You got to upload really good materials. You have to have your Terri O'Fallon material, your Robert Keegan, your Ken Wilber, your Jane Lovinger, your Geipser, your Erickson, right? All that shit's got to be loaded in, because if it tries to pull it from Reddit, it's not going to be very helpful, right? So you got to give the AI a little bit of help. Okay. So how do we help AI? Okay, well, part of it is that we need to teach development. Terri and I are involved right now with Positive AI Labs as consultants. And by I say Terri and I mean really Terri. I just sort of stand around and try not to talk too much. And what they're doing is they're really trying to bring developmental theory into the very AI building process itself. And Terri is such a genius that she caught, when they gave us a bunch of questions that they wanted Terri to look at to then be able to feed into the AI to help it learn developmental psychology. Terri pointed out that the questions themselves have an altitude. The questions are coming from a developmental level that they didn't see. And so we have to pull the whole thing back as developmentalists and not just say, well, how do we program AI? Say, where is that very question arising from? Where are we making meaning from? Because we're going to help the AI learn through that as much as anything else, the things that we don't see. Okay, so a couple key takeaways. Okay, so same words carry different meanings across developmental stages. Agreement versus contact. We all get dumber under stress, me especially. Sequence matters. Contact first, then contract. Really good when you're working with couples. And translation is love. That's why we're here. Right? That's what this weekend's all about. Okay. So, and then I just shoehorned this in here because I thought I should pretend like I actually thought it through. And so I threw these in. So, pre-tragic would be like our parents, we never go to bed angry, Keith. I'm like, really? What have you been doing for the last fucking 40 years, Mom? Been going to bed angry every night. Doesn't really work. The tragic, right? We all know the tragic, like my precious wounds, right? I'm just a broken man. Oh, my trauma. And then the post-tragic is this. Conflict is liberation because it creates connection. So we don't have to be afraid of conflict anymore. We can actually be like, yeah, give me some conflict. It means I can open my heart. I can learn about myself. I can learn about my beloved. How wonderful. Okay. So, last slide. I'm only 2 minutes over. It's amazing. So how do we begin? So I'm going to go back to Contact, the movie. And what the alien tells Jodie Foster, he's translated what she needs to hear. And he's sending her back without any proof, which is very frustrating for an orange, rational scientist. And so she says, what do we do? And face. The face. And so he says, you've taken a first step. In time, you'll take another. Small steps out. Small steps. So thank you all for taking some small steps with me this weekend.